Okay, so let's take a quick look at what this week's discussion board is. We're in week 6. Okay. Okay, so how do we break this down? Do we just pop on there and start writing? Looks like we have 2 people that started already, and that's awesome to get things going on a Monday. But let's kind of break it down a little bit. We're in week 6, so in theory, some of this is going to be coming from what we're supposed to be reading, correct? So just pop into here, and I could have the lady read that again. That's my little computer reader that helps me out a lot. But we're talking about small business distribution. That is repeated. I'm not sure why. That is templated. So primarily, let's go into here. It's going to be something that's in the book, right? Aha. So we have chapters 13 and 14. We probably should be reading them, correct? Okay, well, let's see what I would do. See if I can pause this a second. So now I just popped over into the textbook, which I have in one of the 3 tabs at the top. I don't think you can see that in this recording, but it was chapters 13 and 14, correct? So pop into 13, chapter overview. What are we looking at? Small business marketing. Maybe there's something we could talk about in that chapter. Do you think? Maybe? If not, maybe it's in 14. Chapter overview. More small business marketing. Here it's price and promotion, the overview. Let's go back a minute. Assuming we've read all these entire chapters. Overview. Okay, so which chapter did you like the best? It's probably an easy way to start talking about things. But first, let's break down the question. I copy and pasted this from Blackboard. And so how are we going to break this down? Okay, imagine you're a small business. You have 3 choices. This is what I do personally. You don't have to do it, but I could be either leasing a spot at the mall, in the business district, or a standalone structure. The standalone structure, they explain that. Foot traffic at the mall, they explain that. Foot traffic downtown, right? So now we have 3 different areas. What's the pros and cons of each of them? I'm just going to separate these real quickly. Again, you can not do this if you don't want, but this is just something that I like to do. It's something that I was taught to do, and it seems to work well. That way you can kind of stay focused. I think nowadays there's a million things competing for our competition, for our attention rather, and we get distracted. We might start a discussion board and say, this looks like, oh, this is something I would like to talk about, and maybe we go off on a little bit of a different direction. I do it. I might even be doing it right now, but let's try to focus on the breakdown of the question. So imagine small business has 3 choices: standalone, at the mall, or downtown. So that's what we want to try to figure out based upon what we read in the chapters. So let's go back to the chapters. So it's chapter 13 and 14. So let's go back to chapter 13. Okay, so I've read the entire chapter 13 and 14. That's quite a bit of reading. 308 to, in theory, 336. One chapter. They average 20 to 30 pages, probably closer to the big 20s. But isn't there something about like the 3 Ps or something? No, there we go. Oh, okay. We talk about location, 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 right? It's critical. That's what this question was asking you about. Keep in mind, with most of these, there is no right or wrong answer. It depends on what your business is. It depends on what's going on in your life. It depends on where you live. Do you think that having a mall in Pennsylvania, a state I grew up in suburban Pennsylvania, it's the same as having someone have a mall in, say, Hawaii or Idaho or Oregon or New Hampshire, all states where we have people in this class living? Probably different, right? So just on a base level, what are some of the outcomes of this chapter? Just right away, this stuck out in my head. List factors in selecting the state. List factors in selecting the city. I mean, you could write for hours on this, but what I'm making a 5-minute video about is there's so many things we can choose from, right? All these terms and concepts from the chapter, preferably from the chapter or from a cited reference or from a previous lesson. But what has been happening quite often is let me just talk about what I think about off the top of my head, and it doesn't tie into what we have read and what we're supposed to be learning and what we're supposed to be debating. Keep in mind, the discussion boards, in theory, are made for what? Just to post something that you think is cool and respond to 2 people in about 3 minutes and then not do it for the rest of the week? Don't think that's what it's. Heading back to breaking down the question, here's our 3 options. This is something that I had written to one of your classmates, I think just last night, regarding discussion boards. So what we're really trying to do is emulate some sort of classroom situation. Obviously, it's not ideal. We're not in front of each other person to person. It's not happening live. But can we simulate that somehow? Possibly. We can do that by posting early in the week, and then when someone posts something in your feed, you can subscribe to that thread, and it can just ping your phone, if that's still a word that we use. So here's part of what I wrote to them about the discussion board. Okay, the purpose of the discussion board is to replicate the classroom. You can read from here. Okay, some of us are just coming in, writing our thoughts for 5 minutes, maybe 10, and then splitting, rolling out, and coming back on, say, Sunday night at 11:45 and commenting on 2 posts. And guess what? That technically qualifies for what's going on, for what you need to do. But in that case, I guess maybe now it's time to look at the discussion board rubric. Yes, our good old buddy, the discussion board rubric. Here we are. Whoa, that was pretty big, but that's okay. That actually is perfect. So when I highlighted these different areas, it was, I guess people think I'm kind of going overboard, but I'm trying to have everyone be aware of what to focus on. There's a lot of information for all of us in a semester to digest. I mean, tons of information. So different teachers probably require different things, even though we're using the same rubric. I'm not sure how to emphasize things more than this and more than changing the beginning of most postings to have gigantic capitalizations and things like that. Still, people are clicking on it and not reading it. I'm positive that's happening. I'm sorry that happens, but it's not really in the best interest of everybody, excuse me, if that's what we're doing. So just taking a look at here, I have exemplary listed here because this is probably one of the easier grades you'll have in your lifetime. Basically, you go into the chapter, find a few concepts that go along with the weekly question. This week, it's about how and where to locate your business. They give you 3 options and go from there. Yeah, you could say, this is, in my experience, good. I love that. Or this is what a friend did. Awesome. Or this is a company that I worked at. It was successful because of X, Y, Z. Fine. But again, the purpose is let's tie in some concepts that we've learned. That's not only helping you relearn something, but it's also helping your classmates remember something. Oh, I remember. Oh, that reminds me of that part of the chapter that I missed or that I read 2 weeks ago or I haven't read yet. So it's just being helpful for everybody. So one of the main things here is engagement, right? When someone writes in your post, okay, technically it's not mandatory for you to get back to them. But when they ask you a question in real life, someone asks you a question and do you just not answer it? So let's try to keep that in mind when we're doing these posts. I appreciate your time. This is much longer than I was expecting, but I'm not really good at editing on this program. Thanks for your time.